Welcome to Mind Over Markets, a place where we don't chase signals. We don't worship strategies. We don't pretend the market is something we can predict. Here we explore the only chart that truly determines a trader's future, the human mind. Because all the indicators, all the systems, all the patterns in the world mean nothing if the person executing them cannot control their impulses, their fears, their cravings, and their hidden emotional wounds. Trading isn't a test of intelligence. It's a test of identity. The market doesn't judge your strategy. It judges your self-awareness. And nowhere is that judgment harsher than in the world of Zero-DTE options, a battlefield where time collapses, discipline cracks, and the truth about who you really are comes to the surface faster than you can react. This video is not for entertainment. This is for the traders who are tired of lying to themselves, for the ones who have seen their calm shattered, for the ones who have felt the psychological collapse that only Zero-DTE can trigger. If you've ever wondered why you behave differently under pressure, why you break your own rules, why you chase, why you freeze, why you fall apart when the stakes are highest, today you will find the answers. This is your mind, this is the market, and this is the thin line between rules and ruin. Let's begin. You don't truly understand the human mind until you sit in front of a trading screen with a Zero-DTE option in your hand and a clock that refuses to slow down. Because Zero-DTE doesn't behave like a normal financial instrument. It behaves like a psychological amplifier, a mirror, a pressure chamber. It doesn't just reveal your weaknesses. It magnifies them. It stretches them. It pushes them to the edge until you can no longer lie to yourself about who you are. This is the story of a trader, a single trader. But in truth, he represents millions. He represents every person who has ever stared at a candle and felt their heartbeat merge with the market's rhythm. Every person who has ever believed they could outsmart chaos while struggling to control themselves. This is not a story about strategy. This is not a story about technical patterns. This is a story about the mind, the part no one sees, the part most traders are terrified to confront, the part that decides whether Zero-DTE becomes a tool of discipline or an instrument of self-destruction. Let me take you deeper, past the charts, past the indicators, past the illusion of control, into the raw psychological truth that governs every second of a Zero-DTE trade. Because if you master this truth, you won't just survive Zero-DTE, you'll survive yourself. Every trading day begins long before the bell rings. For most traders, the day begins in the dark, before the sun rises, before the world wakes up. But for the Zero-DTE trader, the day begins with tension, a subtle tightening in the chest, an internal whisper that says, today could be the day. He stretches but doesn't feel rested. He breathes but not fully. His mind is already trading. He checks the futures, a habit, an addiction, a ritual he believes gives him control. He scrolls through overnight news searching for clues as if the market is a puzzle that can be solved before it starts moving. But deep down, he knows the truth. He isn't looking for information. He's looking for certainty. And certainty is the one thing no trader is ever allowed to have. He pours coffee. The caffeine doesn't wake him, the adrenaline does. He sits down, opens his charts, opens his account, opens his expectations, and quietly, without realizing it, he is already emotionally committed to a trade he hasn't taken yet, because the anticipation of trading is often more intoxicating than the trade itself. When the market opens, nothing happens the way he imagined. The first candle forms too quickly, the second candle contradicts the first, the third breaks a level he thought was strong, then reverses just as fast. His logical mind tries to process it, but his emotional mind jumps ahead. This is momentum. This is the breakout. This is the chance. This is the setup. He convinces himself he sees clarity in what is actually chaos. He enters the trade. And in that moment, he tells himself the first lie of the day: this is part of the plan. But he knows it isn't, because he didn't wait. He didn't assess. He didn't breathe. He reacted. And in zero-DTE, reaction is the beginning of ruin. Not because reacting is always wrong, but because reacting means the market is in control of him, not the other way around. He watches his position fluctuate. The price moves against him, just slightly, just enough to activate the fear center of the brain. A tiny red number, a tiny spike of cortisol, a small flame that, if left unchecked, will become a wildfire. He moves his stop just a little, a negotiation with fear, a compromise with discomfort, a surrender disguised as flexibility. He whispers, "It needs more room." But what he really means is, I can't accept being wrong this quickly. This is the psychology of avoidance, loss aversion, ego protection, cognitive dissonance. He knows this. But knowing the truth doesn't prevent the mind from hiding from it. The trade continues to move against him, slowly, then more aggressively. The screen shows numbers, but his mind turns them into emotions. Red feels heavier than green. Loss feels personal. Pain feels urgent. He adjusts the stop again, a second compromise, a second surrender. At this point, he's no longer trading the market. He's trading his fear of loss. He's trading his inability to let go. He's trading the hope that the market will forgive him. Hope, the most dangerous drug in trading. Because hope keeps you locked in losing positions long after logic has left the room. He thinks it has to bounce. It can't go lower. It'll recover. But these are not thoughts. They are emotional prayers, directed not at the market, but at himself. Because what he truly hopes for is not that the market reverses, but that he escapes responsibility without facing the consequence of his impulse. The market doesn't care. It drops again and again. His loss grows. And finally, he closes the trade, not because he chose to, but because the market forced him to. He feels a mix of shame and relief. But the shame is louder. He tells himself it was just a bad entry, a bad read, bad luck, anything but the truth. It was bad psychology. And now the mind begins its second downfall, the need to restore emotional balance. Revenge trading doesn't always feel like anger. Most of the time it feels like justice, like the universe took something from you, and now you deserve to take it back. He scans the chart again, not for opportunities, for redemption. His breathing is shallow. His heart is elevated. His thinking is distorted. He sees a setup where there is none. He sees momentum where there is noise. He sees certainty where there is randomness. He enters again, this time faster, this time larger, this time with the emotional weight of the previous loss pressing against every decision. The trade goes green, a temporary victory, a dangerous reinforcement. His brain floods with dopamine, the neurochemical of reward, the neurochemical of addiction. He doesn't take profit, because taking profit doesn't fix the earlier wound. Taking profit doesn't erase the negative number from the morning. Taking profit doesn't restore his identity as a good trader. He wants the full recovery, the full redemption. But the market pulls back. The green fades. The red returns. His rage boils quietly, not outwardly, but internally. Revenge traders aren't screaming inside. They're bargaining. If I give it more room, it'll return. If I add size, I can fix this faster. If I wait a little longer, everything resets. These are the internal negotiations that destroy accounts, because revenge trades never heal losses. They multiply them. He exits again. Another deep cut, another emotional wound, another crack in his self-control. He stares at the screen, and the worst thought enters his mind: I can't end the day like this. This is the sentence that has destroyed more traders than any market crash in history. He starts clicking, not thoughtfully, not strategically, but compulsively. Every candle becomes a signal. Every fluctuation feels like a pathway back to balance. Every moment feels like the final chance. Overtrading is not a trading behavior. It is a psychological breakdown. It is the moment the thinking brain shuts down and the survival brain takes over. Fight, flight, or freeze. In Zero-DTE, the brain chooses fight. Click more, risk more, chase more, because the most primal part of the mind believes the pain will end if you can just win one trade. Just one more, one good setup, one reversal, one miracle. But trading is not therapy, and the market does not heal emotional wounds. It exposes them. His account bleeds with every impulsive entry, small wins sprinkled among massive losses, a seesaw of hope and despair. He is no longer trading the market. He is trading his trauma, a trauma built over minutes but capable of lasting years. Eventually, the exhaustion sets in, not physical, emotional. The mind collapses first. The discipline collapses second. The account collapses last. He stops trading, not because he chooses to, but because the pain exceeds his threshold. He closes the laptop. But the real damage is the psychological fracture now widening inside him. The room is quiet, but his mind is not. He walks away, but his thoughts follow him. The loss replays in loops, every mistake, every impulse, every ignored rule, every emotional justification. He feels guilty, but he also feels numb. This numbness is not a lack of emotion. It is emotional overload, a shutdown mechanism, a psychological defense. He isn't just upset about losing money. He is upset because the loss revealed something about him that he didn't want to see. A lack of discipline he tried to hide, a craving for excitement he tried to deny, an emotional vulnerability he tried to ignore. He realizes that the pain he feels is not from the market, but from the contradiction between who he wants to be and how he actually behaves. This is cognitive dissonance, one of the most painful human experiences. It is the gap between your ideal self and your real self. Zero-DTE makes that gap visible, painfully visible. Hours pass, the world moves on, but he feels stuck. He sits down again, not at his desk, but with himself. And in that quiet moment, for the first time all day, he starts telling the truth. Not the excuses, not the justifications, not the stories, the truth. The truth that he entered too early because he wanted excitement, not precision. The truth that he moved the stop because he couldn't tolerate discomfort. The truth that he revenge traded because the first loss felt like a threat to his identity as a trader. The truth that he overtraded because his mind was running from pain. The truth that Zero-DTE didn't create his flaws. It exposed them. This moment, this honest confrontation with the self is the turning point. No strategy can save a trader who refuses to self-reflect, but a trader who faces his flaws can rebuild stronger than before. The next morning he wakes differently. Not with excitement, not with anticipation, but with clarity. He isn't trading today to make money. He's trading today to rebuild his identity. He sits down with a journal. He writes rules, not complicated, not technical, but psychological. Rules that protect him from himself. Max loss fixed. No negotiation. Max trades limited. No exceptions. Predefined setup required. No improvisation, no moving stops ever, no entering on emotion ever. If the rules break, he stops trading immediately, because rules aren't restrictions. Rules are protection. Zero-DTE takes advantage of traders who don't take advantage of structure. He closes the journal, and for the first time, he feels ready. Not ready to win, but ready to trade correctly. The charts load, the candles form. The volatility is the same. The urgency is the same. The temptation is the same. But he is not the same. He watches the market dance, but he doesn't join the dance. He waits. He breathes. He watches. He sees movement, but he does not equate movement with opportunity. He sees momentum, but he does not chase it. He sees noise, but he recognizes it as noise. When the setup appears, a calm washes over him. Not excitement, not adrenaline, clarity. He enters, not to prove anything, not to fix anything, not to chase anything, but because the setup matched the plan. The trade fluctuates. He feels discomfort rising, but he doesn't intervene, because discipline means experiencing discomfort without reacting to it. The trade turns green. He exits according to plan. A small win, a controlled win, a correct win, and strangely it feels better than any adrenaline-fueled spike he chased before, because this win feels like self-respect. Zero-DTE is the ultimate psychological mirror. It doesn't test your strategy. It tests your identity. It exposes your impatience, your impulsiveness, your need for excitement, your unresolved fear of loss, your ego's need to be right, your inability to accept uncertainty, your struggle with discipline, your emotional dependence on the market. Each tick is a trigger. Each candle is a test. Each minute is a magnifying glass over your subconscious patterns. Let's go deeper. Impatience. Zero-DTE punishes impatience faster than any financial product. It shows you how uncomfortable you are with waiting, with uncertainty, with silence, need for control. Zero-DTE reveals that your need for control is nothing but an illusion. The market moves on its own timeline, not yours. Fear of loss. Zero-DTE exposes how much pain you feel when your identity is threatened by a small red number. Because in trading, loss is not financial, loss is personal. Fear of missing out. Zero-DTE intensifies FOMO to primal levels. Every candle becomes a could have. Every move feels like a threat to your future. Every moment feels like the last chance. Ego attachment. Your ego wants to win fast. The market wants to take your ego apart. And in Zero-DTE, the market always wins. Emotional dysregulation. Zero-DTE pushes your emotional threshold beyond what your nervous system is built for. You feel amplified versions of anxiety, excitement, fear, greed, hope, frustration, despair. It's not trading. It's emotional exposure. Therapy. Zero-DTE has two paths, rules or ruin. Here are the psychological rules that determine the difference. A trader with no max loss is a gambler with Wi-Fi. More trades rarely mean more profit. Usually they mean more emotion. If you wait until the market opens to decide, your emotions will decide for you. If you move a stop once, you'll move it forever. Because emotions scale with size. Your mood makes terrible financial decisions. Stopping is not weakness. Stopping is mastery. What does a mature Zero-DTE trader look like? Calm, slow, detached, disciplined. He doesn't chase. He doesn't predict. He doesn't react. He observes. He waits. He executes. He wins small. He loses small. He grows consistently. Because maturity in trading is not about brilliance. It's about monotony. Doing the right thing over and over until it becomes your identity. Zero-DTE is not a financial challenge. It is a psychological awakening. It forces you to confront your impulsiveness, your impatience, your hidden emotional cravings, your relationship with uncertainty, your tolerance for discomfort, your attachment to identity, your need for control, your fear of being wrong, your unresolved emotional wounds. Most traders fail not because zero DTE is too fast, but because their minds are too chaotic. A calm mind wins in chaos. A chaotic mind loses in seconds. The trader in this story survived, not because he mastered zero DTE, but because he mastered himself. Now the question is, will you zero DTE? Will not wait for your answer. The clock is ticking. The volatility is building. The pressure is rising. You must choose rules or ruin. Master your mind. You've just walked through the psychological landscape that most traders never dare to explore. The part of trading that has nothing to do with charts and everything to do with who you become when the pressure rises and the clock runs out. Zero DTE doesn't make you undisciplined. It reveals the discipline you never had. It doesn't make you emotional. It exposes the emotions you never learned to master. But now, you've seen the truth. You've seen how the mind breaks. You've seen how the mind rebuilds. And you've seen that survival in the market begins with survival within yourself. If today's journey showed you something about your own behavior, your own impulses, your own emotional patterns, don't ignore it. Don't bury it. Don't pretend it isn't there. Awareness is the first step. Accountability is the second. Discipline is the path. And mastery is what happens when you choose the path again and again and again. If this message resonated with you, if you found a piece of yourself in this story, then you're exactly the kind of trader Mind Over Markets was built for. Join me, subscribe. Listen again when your mind feels chaotic. Return to this video when you're tempted to break your rules. Use it as the anchor that keeps you steady when the market tries to pull you apart. Because in the end, your greatest edge is not your strategy or your setup or your timing. Your greatest edge is your psychology. And when you master that, you will finally master the market. Until next time, this is Mind Over Markets, where traders come to rebuild themselves from the inside out.